mob, or the idea that Democrats are getting increasingly violent and increasingly extreme as time goes on. And while all of this is going on, the media seems to be running cover for it, or just denying that it exists. We've seen CNN and MSNBC, different personalities on those networks defending Antifa and, demonizing the people that Antifa attacks. I wanted to go back and just show people, some clips from the Obama years when the Tea Party was going strong and the media just endlessly demonized them.
Our number 8 political story of the decade, angry whites. At town hall meetings across the country, lawmakers heard the wrath of angry voters.
I don't understand this rudeness. What is this? I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Do you all think that you're persuading people when you shout out like that? You don't trust me?
Oh, Andrea, there's a really nice political person with a centrist sort of political state, Missouri, just trying to hold on to voter sentiment, and they're just being rough.
And she has
just come to America.
1 year after the historic election, how have we changed?
For the first time, we have an African-American head of state, but there's always going to be people who challenge it, who are threatened by it.
If you're going to change things, it has to start first with a conversation, and I think this is a good thing.
A live town hall event hosted by Chris Matthews, featuring Tom Joyner. Obama's America 2010 and beyond. Monday at 10 on MSNBC.
He sees real danger for the Republicans in the rise of this mad as hell sentiment.
The very anger of it, the racist elements, the irrational elements, the embrace of fiction.
The organizer, for instance, if I was holding a Dylan Radigan event and a bunch of people held up saying they wanted to kill blacks and Jews, I would say, would you kindly remove yourself? I don't accept people who follow me who are into killing blacks and Jews and women or whatever it may be. What confuses me about the Tea Party is the Tea Party's willingness to accept the wingnuts, as you put it, without shaming them or defining more crisply what the Tea Party's agenda is relative to those who just want to kill black people, for instance.
So that's our fault that they're nuts?
No, it's not. It's your fault that you haven't shamed them, Mark. It is your fault that unlike the Democrats or the Republicans or any other political group. So you're saying you accept racists and Nazis, Mark? Is that what you're saying?
Question.
Do you accept racists and Nazis in the Tea Party?
Here in Sacramento at the NBC
do you, Mark?
local
I'm asking
news
you a
affiliate,
question, my man. I didn't. You want to have a conversation?
This was a group that was peaceful. I don't know of any violence that occurred at any Tea Party. There was one incident where the media tried to claim somebody spit on a black Democrat as he walked into the Senate. But that was never proven. There were cameras everywhere. There was mics everywhere. And yet nobody could produce a single shred of evidence saying that or showing that anybody spit on him or lobbed racial slurs at him. Breitbart actually offered $100,000 to anybody who could prove that, and it never came to fruition. But of course that didn't stop the media from using it endlessly for weeks, to demonize the Tea Party. The media even used this story recently to attack Trump supporters, saying that, oh, well, if you look back, the Tea Party had a history of spitting on members of Congress and lobbing racial slurs. Again, never proven. It was literally, and even if it did happen, okay, we're talking like one person out of a sea of people who did this, and yet the media takes that one person and for years down the road still using it to attack their political opposition. Contrast that to their stance now on violence, open violence, and madness coming from the Democrat Party that's well documented, and yet they still deny it, they still run cover for it. It's maddening.
Humphrey in 1968. This is what they do. In our day, it's Occupy Wall Street or Black Lives Matter. They go out on the street and they protest and they break windows sometimes, or they get violent. This is what they do. Donald Trump is just merely the latest opportunity to do this.
I mean, I've seen this on both sides. I certainly hear what you're saying about the violence, but I've covered Tea Party protests on Capitol Hill where people spit on members of Congress where African American members of Congress were called slang terms, racist slang terms.
If you turn on the TV now, the media acts as if, the only violence that has occurred has been very sparse, it's rare, and that, violence that does occur is actually justified, and then they give their justifications for it.
Right in the name, Antifa, anti-fascism, which is what they were there fighting. Listen, there's, no organization is perfect. There was some violence. No one condones the violence, but there were different reasons for Antifa and for these neo-Nazis to be there. One, racist fascists. The other group fighting racist fascists. There's a distinction there. Thank you both.
But when someone comes to call out bigots and it gets hot, even physical, are they equally wrong as the bigot they are fighting? I argue no. Fighting against hate matters. Now, how you fight matters too. There's no question about that. But drawing a moral equivalency between those espousing hate and those fighting it because they both resort to violence emboldens hate.
They never want to bring up the fact that these violent Democrat mobs have been around since, and I would say even before the Obama administration. We saw a lot of it during the Bush years. But if we're going to talk about, the here and now, before the election, there were violent Democrat mobs that were targeting Trump supporters and beating them up, or pelting them with eggs, or pelting them with rocks and cans. They never want to bring up the fact that these violent Democrat mobs have been around since, and I would say even before the Obama administration. We saw a lot of it during the Bush years. But if we're going to talk about, the here and now, before the election, there were violent Democrat mobs that were targeting Trump supporters and beating them up, or pelting them with eggs, or pelting them with rocks and cans. And in fact, you might remember in San Jose, the mayor there actually, told people that if they came there, if Trump supporters came to San Jose, they could expect to be messed with. And that's exactly what happened.
We begin with several developing stories here on a Friday night. First, the violent and bloody clashes outside a Donald Trump event. Protesters attacking Trump supporters. Those supporters were attacked as they left the convention center in San Jose overnight. Some punched, some chased down and beaten. Others had bottles thrown at them.
And in fact, Trump supporters have now won a lawsuit against the San Jose mayor and the police force for essentially just standing down and allowing these violent Democrat mobs to beat up anybody that they wanted to.
A court victory tonight for some Bay Area Trump supporters after they ended up caught in the middle of a violent protest in San Jose back in 2016. NIPE's Maria Medina explains they just won their fight to sue the police.
But the media, if they even report that stuff, they don't stay on the story. They will report it and then move on, so that down the road, if they're ever called on it, they could say, no, we reported it. See, here's this. But you and I both know, all of you out there know, that when the media wants a target to be demonized, wants to discredit somebody, they can do it. They can run stories for weeks on end, 24/7. But they only ever do this for one side. The fact is, you just cannot trust the media. Turn off your TV, and if you can't turn off your TV, just be highly, highly skeptical of anything you hear coming from these outlets. As always, thanks for watching. Please share my channel and subscribe. We got to get the word out to as many people as we can.